And we are back with the third episode of World End Economica, episode 1. The woman being with pride, we had read that. So, wait, if she thought him, then where did they know each other from? Don't tell me they used to be lovers. As I dreamed up juicy scenarios in my head, I stared vacantly at her face as she turned back to the television. So was that lunch? Dinner? Huh? Did you eat that for lunch or dinner? I didn't have the slightest idea as to why she was asking for all these details. It was probably because of some stupid made-for-women horoscope that she watched every day. I bet it was something like, if you ask a boy you meet today what and where he ate for each meal yesterday, your lucky color is yellow and your lucky word is optimism. And thou shalt bow to Tay-Tay, 'cause Tay-Tay is love. Dinner. What about lunch? Tea. I had set out to click my tongue, but after being told straight-faced that it didn't suit me, I ended up holding back. The woman might have noticed this fact because she was grinning slightly. I answered her after telling her in my mind to shut up. I didn't eat it. Really? This time, I didn't keep myself from clicking my tongue, or from getting angry for that matter. Why she wanted to know these things in such detail and completely baffled me. And what do you care? Right as I turned her question around on her, a plate of fried rice hit the counter with a thud. The woman stood up and brought the plate over. Then right as I thought that she was going to place it on the table, she kept the plate in her hand and looked down at me. You really didn't eat anything for lunch? As if to show her that I was trying my hardest not to click my tongue, I started to scrape my upper lip with my teeth. No, I didn't. I don't eat lunch on weekdays. What about today? Today is an exception, since I was driven out of the cafe at a weird time. So what? Anyways, give me my food that you're just holding there. Eating a proper lunch was something special to me, since I usually only did it on Sundays when the Luna Stock Exchange was closed. Eating lunch on a weekday was rare. As I glared at the woman, she heaved a small sigh and placed the plate on the table completely unperturbed. The smell of sweet and sour sauce whetted my appetite. My interest shifted from the now strangely annoying woman's questions to the food in front of me. You need to eat 3 real meals a day. The woman talked to me while standing and staring at me digging into the fried rice. And eat a little more neatly. Mind your own business. Oh, mind your own business, I muttered mentally as I piled a mountain of fried rice and crab omelette on my spoon and shoved it all in my mouth. The woman sighed and then returned listlessly to her counterside chair. What a cryptic, stupid woman. I focused on my food, stuffing my stomach with such vigor that I barely had time to even sigh. No sound. After filling my stomach with fried rice, I ordered the AU jelly, a sweet and sour gelatinous dish. It was unusual to see this dessert around here, but it was definitely delicious if a little expensive. Since today was a cursed day, I thought that it might be just the exorcism I needed, Or you start believing in Tay-Tay. You've got the money, right? The woman doubted me after I made my order, but of course I had enough money to have a regular meal. You could rent a cheap apartment for 400 mules a month, so I could live on my own pretty easily. The reason I actually couldn't was because there weren't any places a minor with no guarantor could rent. I heard that on Earth, people in my situation were sometimes able to make it happen. Unfortunately, lunar cities were only accessible via orbital elevator, and so everyone's identity was known. If I went to rent a house, they'd immediately run my fingerprints and an iris scan, and then contact my parents. Unless you were an extraterrestrial, if you're on the moon, they know who you are and where you came from. Have I ever stiffed you? Oh, it's getting harsh. Just because you've paid in the past doesn't mean that you're sure to pay next time. And anyway, you ran away from home, right? You need to take better care of your money. I felt a strange sense of comfort in the fact that her lecture wasn't about my running away itself, and overall I agreed with the idea that people should take care of their money. You don't have to tell me that. Oh, really? The woman shrugged, then carried the AU jelly from the counter where it had just appeared. It was hard to argue with her, since I was in fact wasting money here. But I was confident that I had more money than anyone else my age. What's more, I'd never gone on a wild spending spree before. The magic of compound interest made the world go round. If 1 mule today turned into 10 in a year, 3 years after that, it would be 10,000. Compare that to what my dad would make in his entire life, earning roughly the same amount every month from sweating in the fields to grow vegetables. In 5 years, there'd be no way I'd be eating in a lame restaurant like this. That woman might be making fun of me now, but I'll bet I would eventually be wearing a stylish suit and living in a high-rise apartment in Newton City, and of course, I was not going to stop there. That wasn't where my dream ended, it's where it began. If you're some rich actor, you might be able to bask in space on the opposite side of the moon with some beautiful woman by your side. But if you were one of the wealthiest here in this lunar city, you could go even further. You could make all the emotions and desires you feel when you look up at space come true. I ate the sweet and sour clump of IU jelly, and as I looked at my screen to choose the tree that would grow me money, I was immersed in a familiar daydream. This place was the forefront of humanity, a golden city of wealth and prosperity. I would run through the city gates. I would outwit the genius and prodigies from Earth to take my place there at last. I silently got myself worked up during this quiet early afternoon in a Chinese restaurant. I moved my touch mouse back and forth, and just as I brought up the display for the prominent, even on the moon, investment bank E.G. Rochberg, customers entered the store. I thought it was strange that customers would come in at this hour and raised my head. At that moment, a feeling ran throughout my body like an ice cube had just been stuck up my asshole. Oh crap! Welcome! 2, please. Yes, sir, table for 2. The woman said this in her usual carefree voice, but her words barely entered my ear. I lowered my cap in farther over my eyes and hunched over, trying to hide in the reflection of my PC display. Looking at their clothes, it was unmistakable. The pair who had just arrived at the table on the other side of the restaurant were police officers on patrol. I'll get the tension done. Same here. Very well, 2 tension. It seemed like they just chose this place randomly during their patrol, but who likes eating in the same restaurant as the cops? No, not only that, I think those two were the ones who were at the Big Ball Cafe, according to my faint memory. The patrol route for the police didn't include into cafes, so someone had to have tipped them off somehow. I was not some sort of invisible man, so someone surely must have seen me hanging around a weird place at a weird time. Whoever that someone was, if they told the police that there was a shady-looking kid around, there would only be a handful of places they would search. It was totally possible that those two were looking for me. That might also be the reason that the policeman facing me was glancing at me now and then. But to think that he'd take off and lead us on this wild ghost chase. The police with his back to me suddenly spoke. The cop looking at me waited a moment before replying to his partner. Yeah, okay. Well, it was just some big shots looking at maps all day who decided how wide our area of jurisdiction was to be. And there wasn't any public survey system in that area either. But I think that if we were hiding somewhere, it would have been in that net joint. The storekeeper there was a pretty sketchy looking guy too. Maybe we should grab him and rough him up a little. Don't judge by appearances. He ended up having a pretty impressive story, didn't he? Yeah, I guess. Man, I should have studied hard at the academy. Never thought I'd be assigned to the boonies like this. Location has nothing to do with it. You just need to carry out your duties. You're very, very right. You're very right about that. So they really were looking for someone. But the owner, that Siralt guy, had an impressive history. I couldn't even begin to imagine. What do we do after this? If we go by the book, we'd start the usual thing with questioning people. His co-worker facing me took a sip of water and went quiet, as if in thought. I got the feeling that he was taking a good hard look at me. In my mind, I was praying that he... In my mind, I was praying that they gave up on the questioning and just went back to their nest. If we call for reinforcements, we're just going to get laughed at. Looks like we got no choice. Anyway, our duty is to keep public order. Cracks in public safety begin in the smallest of places. Even if it is just one boy, we can't just let him get away. My heart felt like it might jump right out of my mouth. Now there was no mistake. They were tipped off by someone and were out looking for me. Lunar cities were nuts about keeping public order. Even in the Rat Valley, where suspicious guys wandered the streets, there was not even the faintest trace of any real danger. It was just a degenerate, pleasure-seeking town. Everyone knew just how risky committing an act of physical violence was in a place this small. After all, if you were deported by the residential management court, there'd be no question that you'd never be able to come back. The only people exempt from that form of punishment were people who were born on the moon. Even then, if you committed second-degree murder or worse, it was not so certain. Of course, I wouldn't be subject to the penal code just because I ran away from home. But the overall zeal for maintaining public order would mean that I'd be sent back home. After that, I'd probably be forced to report to a local facility every day until I became an adult. While that happened, I'd grow further and further away from the front line of the world and would eventually be swallowed up by the masses. I fixed my darting eyes on my hands and thought desperately. How should I escape from here? If I grabbed my PC and ran, the plug would get in the way. Do I unplug the adapter from my PC and take off running with just the unit? My identity could be given away by the adapter, but it was still better than being captured. Or should I stay still right here and wait for them to leave? I'd like to do that if it's possible, but that officer staring at me seemed like he was about to stand up and shout, "Hey you," to me at any moment. My cold sweat dripped onto my keyboard. Wait, that woman wouldn't have ratted me out, would she? Paranoia! As I thought of this possibility, I was tortured by a desperate rage, but suddenly a shadow appeared on the table. It was that woman. More water? She poured me a refill. I cursed her in my heart, wishing that she wouldn't draw their attention towards me at a time like this, and my lowered face was totally flushed. But a piece of paper with words written on it was attached to the side of the cup she clunked down on the table. Get ready. I nearly raised my head, but the woman quickly left my table before I could make the mistake. I set my computer to mute and shut it down so that they didn't notice that my OS was no longer running. I'll give up on the adapter. I quietly pulled the cord out of the main unit and confirmed the location of my bag. I already used the money I always kept in my jacket pocket at the cafe, so I'll use what I had in my back pocket. There was a line in an old Earth mafia movie that I saw at home that said that a $10 bill kept in your clothes was a business card to God. It certainly kept you well prepared. I quietly placed a 10 mul bill by my hand, perked up my ears, and waited for the right timing. The policeman had been staring at me non-stop. He was definitely suspicious of me. With a clang, the policeman started to get up. Tension up! At that very moment, the tension gun was placed on the counter loudly. What's wrong? The cop called out to his partner, who was now halfway out of his seat. Is it the guy behind me? Right after he said this, the woman's voice rang energetically. Right after he said this, the woman's voice rang energetically through the room. Jesus Christ. Thanks for waiting. Here's your tension done. Yeah. The one with his back to me turned his attention back to the food. The other one was looking at me, but because the woman was standing next to his corner seat, he was stuck in his seat and couldn't get out. Now was the moment. It was my only chance. The payment's on the table. I said this as quietly as possible and left the 10 mul bill on the table. Hey, you! Wait! The officer clearly told me to stop, but I just gave him a sideways glance as I walked quickly towards the exit. It was only a distance of 3 steps, but it felt like forever. The yelling officer attempted to chase after me, but with the woman in his way, he couldn't get out. Kya! The shrill scream came from the woman, who lost her balance after being pushed by the officer. She turned to the other officer still sitting in his chair, and the piping hot tension looked like it was about to spill. Acting out of natural self-defense, the officer caught the bottle in his hands. By that time, I had successfully exited the store. I took off running as if nothing else in the world mattered. We'll end the episode right here. And I'll see you in episode 4. So have a nice day and goodbye.